So back to Job here, okay? And so one of the things I want to begin with is that nothing catches God off guard. And I mean nothing. One of the ways that God is described in the Old Testament is like this: the Lord goes before you. Deuteronomy chapter 31 and verse 8, the Lord himself goes before you, and he will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. Isaiah chapter 45 verse 2, the scripture says, I will go before you, and I will level the mountains. I will break down gates of bronze and cut through the bars of iron. So for a lot of us, all we see today are mountains. They're mountains of illness, the mountain of maybe financial insecurity, political disunity, family tension, job loss, a lot of things that are in front of us, one mountain after another. And this morning, you and I are worshiping a God who goes before us. It's not that he just gives us strength. He goes before us and levels mountains, as Isaiah says. Now we're looking at the story of Job. And Job, like us, feels like it's really important that he informs God. You know, if God would just be informed, he would be able to do something about his problems. Job's major frustration isn't that God doesn't care. He knows that God cares. He's just not sure that God is aware. And so he wants to make sure that God knows. Hey, God, do you know that I've lost my business, that I've lost my family, that I'm losing my health? And so Job is using poetry in chapter 30 to express himself. And he says, the churning inside me never stops. Days of suffering confront me. I go about blackened, not by the sun. I stand up in the assembly and cry for help. I have become a brother of jackals and a companion of owls. He's saying there that I don't sleep at night. My skin grows black and peels. My body burns with fever. My lyre is tuned to mourning. My pipe to the sound of wailing. And so Job is saying, I can't sleep at night. And the only songs that I play are sad songs. Hey, God, do you hear my sad songs? Do you see me? Are you aware? And I know that during this season, a lot of people are hurting out there. As a minister, you kind of become tuned in to what all is going on with people. And some of you know of people that are having a hard time. But the question is that we're kind of grappling with today is, does God know? The first time the word know shows up in the Hebrew Bible is in Genesis chapter 4 and verse 1. The King James Version says, and Adam knew his wife Eve. The NIV says in Genesis chapter 4 and verse 1 that Adam made love to his wife Eve. To know means to know completely and to be completely known. It's the Hebrew word yada. And if you were to trace this word in the Old Testament, this is the relationship that God wants to have with his people, to know completely and to be completely known. This becomes clear in the Psalm 139. The psalmist uses this word a number of times in a few verses. In Psalm 139, verses 1 through 4, O Lord, you've examined my heart, and you know everything about me. You know when I sit down or stand up. You know my thoughts, even when I'm far away. You see me when I travel, when I rest at home. You know everything I do. You know what I'm going to say even before I say it, Lord. And so I don't know how you receive these words, and these words maybe frighten you that God knows all these. It's kind of, I guess, depends on where you stand with God. But when David penned these words, they were meant to be words of comfort. You know what's going on with me. You know how I feel. Lord, you know when I'm moving about. You know when I'm fearful. There's no thought that I have that escapes your knowing. When I thought of an illustration, a mom and a baby are a perfect illustration of this relationship. If a baby cries, guys, we don't know what's going on. But when a mom hears a baby cry, she knows immediately the baby needs a nap, or maybe a different cry, the baby needs something to eat. When a mama picks up a baby, that baby feels calm because they're in the hands of someone who knows exactly what they need. The relationship is yada. Now, in this book, God is asking Job questions about the universe and the animal kingdom. But the word that God uses in questioning Job is the word yada. Job, do you know about the expanse of the universe? Job, do you know about the animal world? And what God is sharing with Job is you don't know. But what he's also sharing with him is I do know. I, says God, know all the answers to all these questions. And so I want us to get the picture here. Job is saying to God, he's experiencing a lot of pain and suffering. And God says, I know. I know exactly what you're going through. Back in the Psalm 39, it talks about our human bodies as to how God knows all about us. And so Psalm 39, skipping down to verse 13, you made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit them together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. You watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion, as I was woven together in the dark of the womb. You saw me before I was born. And so Augustine says, men go abroad to wonder at the heights of mountains, at the huge waves of the sea, at the long courses of the river, at the vast compass of the ocean, at the circular motions of the stars, and they pass by themselves without wondering. In other words, the evidence that God cares lies within you and me. DNA has been called the signature of God. In one strand of DNA, there's enough information that it would take like 1,000,000 pages to record. And so for a minute, let's just consider the human body. The human brain has 30 billion working sections. Your ears have like 24,000 hair-like cells in the inner ear that react to vibrations that somehow converted into sounds that you and I can hear. Guys, your wife has said this before. Hey, do you smell that? And you're trying to smell something that you have no idea what she's even talking about. And even though the receptors of smell for the male and the female are the same, a larger part of the woman's brain is activated through the sense of smell. Isn't that amazing? The heart pumps an average of 100,000 times a day. It pumps 2,000 gallons of blood through your body. It travels endlessly through 60,000 miles of blood vessels, and it makes that trip in less than a minute. The design of your arteries is amazing. The pressure they have to withstand is so high that the pipes at your home could not withstand it. But your arteries do just fine because they've been created by God. In your body, you have 46.5 miles of nerves, and they run throughout your entire body. Now, what does all this mean? Jesus in Matthew 10 says, God knows the number of hairs on your head. The average person now has about 100,000 hairs. During your lifetime, your skin will replace itself like 1,000 times. Your joints will move 25 million times before you have to get them replaced. Now, what does all this mean? It means that you've been thoughtfully and intentionally designed by God. The Message says of Psalm 139 and verse 4, you know me inside and out. You know every bone in my body. You know exactly how I was made bit by bit. And so Job's response in Job chapter 40 and verse 4, he says, I am unworthy. How can I reply to you? I put my hand over my mouth. Here's what Job decides to do. He says, I'll just be quiet. So here in the story of Job, everything falls apart. And here are two takeaways. One is Job is comforted that God knows, but he's also confident that God will redeem. Right in the middle of the book, Job declares what he knows. So Job 19 and verse 25, he says, I know that my Redeemer lives, and he will stand upon the earth at last. There are a lot of things he doesn't understand, so many things he's confused about. He has so many questions and no answers, but he shares what he does know. He says, I know that my Redeemer lives, that God is a great Redeemer. This is what God does. He redeems. In other words, things won't always be like they are. Hope that you receive that. Things won't always be like they are. God doesn't look at you with his hands in his pockets. No, your Redeemer lives, so live like it. God never stops working. I don't know about my health, but I know that my Redeemer lives. I don't know about my financial future, but I do know that my Redeemer lives. I don't know what's going to happen with my kids, but I know that my Redeemer lives. I don't know if I'll have a job tomorrow, but I know that my Redeemer lives. I don't know if the vaccine will come, and if it does, it will be the answer that we're looking for, but I know that my Redeemer lives. I don't know how this election is going to go down, but I know that my Redeemer lives. I don't know the world my grandkids will live in, but I know that my Redeemer lives, and he will stand. He will take a stand upon the earth at last. And so Job spoke those words thousands of years before Jesus, our great Redeemer, was born. But he's made a stand as our Redeemer. And what God does is he makes broken things into beautiful things. And we're worshiping a God who levels mountains for his people. And the greatest mountain that was leveled before you and I were even born was the mountain of sin. And that's what Jesus came to do, to level the greatest mountain that we would ever have to think about climbing. And so my prayer for you are the words of Job. Before, my ears had heard of God, but now I see God. I hope that that is your prayer, your experience as you go through difficulties. Hey, we all heard about God, but now we know. We've seen God, and we've experienced him. And he is a great and awesome God who moves mountains. Hope you have a great week, that something this morning from the book of Job was a blessing to you. God bless.